boy.
And we're live.
Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Ensign.
And I'm Frederick Philip von Weiss, and you are consuming the Thunder Nerds, a conversation for the people behind the technology that love what they do.
And do web good. Sorry, I got distracted. Someone opened the door.
And today we're joined by Sandra Persing. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Oh,
good job.
Horrible at names. So you already got to speak today, right?
I did.
And then you got to enjoy the rest of the day?
I did. That's the best thing, to speak first.
That's true.
Yeah, just get it
That's
knocked
true.
out and out of the way.
Absolutely.
That's cool. I was wondering if you could tell our audience a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So again, my name is Sandra Persing. I'm the Global DevRel Program Manager at Mozilla currently. I also serve as a fellow for Women Who Code. And our global leadership team is based in San Francisco, but actually started in Seattle as one of the directors. So we saw some great growth and we talked it over and said, you know, it'd be really great if I could help some other chapters around, and I've joined the senior leadership team to help with that.
Oh, that's cool.
Very cool.
So why? So the move then to San Francisco, right?
Well, it's a little complicated. Mostly,
We just talked about this, actually.
Yeah, my bio is actually spot on when I say I will say hi to you mostly in terminals than any other city. I travel a lot. I'm on planes, but trains, automobiles, especially during our Asia Developer
There's a
Roadshow.
movie about that.
I know, exactly. Several movies. But I mostly live on the West Coast. I split time between Portland and San Francisco.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I love San Francisco, or Portland, rather.
Both?
Yeah. Well, San
No,
Francisco's
just
nice, but I
Portland.
love Portland.
Just Portland.
I really love Portland.
It's a great town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what was your speech about today?
I guess I took a little bit of time to talk a little bit more about what I do to support my engineering team and all the great work that's been coming out of Mozilla these days. As I was telling you guys earlier, I usually sit on the opposite end. I'm on the production end. I'm the producer. I'm the organizer. I actually do a lot of stuff that Mike actually did for DevFest Florida today. Create the conference, create the program, find the speakers, curate that content. So it was a little odd for me to stand on stage, and especially following Brandy's wonderful talk, to talk more about, oh, okay, let's talk about the operational side, the team building side, the sponsorship side. You know, I thought it was really funny that I did have my Bugzilla slide up while I was encountering all the technical bugs today of everything that could go wrong, will go wrong on stage. Yeah, and just went on and on about, you know, just being super proud of what we did as a team at Mozilla this year with our Developer Roadshow. I mean, programming 57 events is no joke, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we also ran our regular programming of sponsoring external events like DevFest Florida, sponsoring meetups. We actually support a lot of local meetups that are promoting web technologies.
Oh, nice.
And Mozilla, again, produced our third web developer conference, ViewSource, in London, which I just returned from. And we had about 12 speakers at the RSA talking about, you know, what's the latest and greatest in web technologies. So, you know, just a little bit here and there.
Yeah, you
Sounds like hundreds of events when you add all up, all the little meetups and everything else.
Yeah, I think you're slightly busy.
Yeah, a little bit.
So are you speaking at any more events later, like coming up this year? Or?
You know, again, that's the power of the team. I have a couple of my colleagues traveling around Europe. Mostly in Germany to finish up the year, to wrap up the year, to hit our 57 plus number. I'm personally done. I'm so happy about that. I can't wait to just go home and relax a little bit and you know, be more in that production role of supporting organizations, groups, speakers, and my team.
So do you feel more comfortable in the production role than rather than the speaking?
You know, it's you need somebody to drive. Right?
Yes.
You can't be the person who's always running out to get gas or do whatever that needs to be done on a road trip. You just need somebody to take the wheel and say, all right, we're going from A to B. And I really enjoy that role very much.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get, or rather, what do you think you're going to be doing with that in the future?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. You know, as part of my whole lessons learned slide for this year, what we did learn was 2017 was all about sort of sowing the seeds, right? Let's go out there, short amount of time, really just grassroots level, nothing fancy. A lot of the events were actually pretty bare bones. Focus on the content, reach out to the developers where they are. And it was really important, again, that we started out in Kansas City supporting the DevFest KC event with Kyle Paul, because we wanted to expand out of our normal zones, right? Silicon Valley, Seattle, even now, Austin, London, Berlin. Those are what I would consider the major tech hubs right now that are growing. What's going on in Tulsa? What's going on in some of the smaller towns that's happening. We've also supported in Canada, I think Sudbury, Canada, DevFest, again, to figure out hey, what's going on in your community?
Interesting.
50 devs matter as much as 500 devs.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and 50 people communicating out can spread it out to many, many, many more.
Exactly.
And supporting this event, fantastic, because Florida and this coast, other than, obviously New York, not as many events as, I'd like to see. I'd like to see more. We have Front End Conf, and there's some things happening in Miami. Orlando is big, but we don't get as much. There's a lot of developers, especially in Florida. So Orlando,
yeah.
And there's companies here like Treehouse and there's Malwarebytes in Tampa, and there's a lot of fairly decent sized companies in the area.
Yeah.
So getting more communication going, I think, is a really good thing.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah. So we learning. We learned this year. It's not like we stopped learning, but
we finally learned this year.
I know. Now we're done. I wish.
Tired your island.
Next year, we're going to focus on nurturing a lot of these key relationships, right? It's sort of okay, we have a hypothesis. We went out there, tested the waters. Where do we really want to nurture and invest? And maybe we stop talking so much and we actually listen more. So we're going to do a lot more focus groups. We call it developer focus groups. Getting maybe 20 leaders in areas like Florida and getting a lot more in-depth insight on how does your community function? What are your needs? Going back to my presentation, just what do you guys want? What do you need? What are you lacking? Right? What can we help? How can we help?
Yeah, it's almost kind of difficult for some companies to listen or thinking about actually listening. But that's where you get the really good input, the valuable input. Yeah,
exactly. We have a very strong team within Mozilla that's been studying for many years now on, what developers need. I think you may know them, called the MDN, Mozilla Developer Network. That small little group.
Oh, those guys?
Best resource out there. And yet somehow that one other, I don't even know who runs it, the WC3 schools.
Oh, yeah.
Always seems to be above, and it doesn't make sense because theirs is way less informative than
I always hear that too.
I don't understand.
Nobody knows.
No one even really knows who runs it because we've had numerous I've heard in numerous podcasts and other people talking about it, and no one seems to really know who's running that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious who actually.
Yeah, I think I heard that on Chris Quarry's podcast. That's interesting. So I wonder if you mind me asking how you got into what you're doing.
Oh, long and winding path. Let's see. I worked in publishing after graduation, and it's a really good role. It was an international sales, actually, so I wasn't an editor. Although I worked in an agency prior to that, I did read a lot of manuscripts. But it was basically understanding your market's needs, taking content and producing it into localization needs. So a good example would be, oh, hey, here's a bestseller Harry Potter-like book. It was actually called Lemony Snicket. I don't know if you are familiar with it. Children's books, right? Does it make sense that we take a product that works really well in the US market and just ship it in a big cargo boat, dump it into a store in Australia and say, go buy? Or do we actually localize it? Do we change the format of the field, the texture, the size?
Right.
Do we change some of the words? We work with the editor.
I've heard that it's pretty incredible that I've heard they change even the wording of things. So it's just completely different in some aspects. It's interesting.
Yeah, so I did a lot of the coordination, working with authors, working with our contract department, legal, sales, logistics, shipping. So
Oof.
yeah, lots of that.
Yeah.
So I did that for about 10 years, and I went to get my MBA, and I thought I wanted to go to banking, which was like a big no after I did an internship.
Yeah,
I was like,
about to say.
this is not for me.
Interesting.
It's not for everybody.
No, I think it's mostly, yeah. So I did a big, I guess, 180 with that approach and went into luxury hospitality. I worked for
Oh, wow. That's another different.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I did programming, but for a very select and privileged group of people to get very well, I guess, and stay healthy. And I wanted to translate that experience to something broader. So I, of course, worked in a startup, and that's why I moved to the West Coast. And I did the startup life for a little bit. And I was actually pitching my product to Mozilla when they said,
really?
you
should just come work for us.
yeah, your product, that sounds interesting, but we don't really need that. So kind of fail on the sale. But
And they slid a check across the table.
said,
do you like working here?
Yeah, well, they said, but our developer groups, and you have a technical background, you work with engineers, you built an app, would you like to work with them and do programming? And I said, yeah, that sounds interesting.
That's nice. What did you say? I
said, yeah.
No, to get that, I'm curious what got that.
Oh, what
did
got
they
them interested?
communicate what got them interested?
Yeah, when I worked in my startup, my customer base were mostly small, medium-sized tech companies in the Bay Area, and I was able to create really interesting programs that appealed to engineers.
Oh, okay.
So I understood what an engineer likes, dislikes. It doesn't matter sometimes the content; it's just understanding your audience, right?
Exactly, that's an important thing.
Yeah, it's such a hard thing to beat into some people's minds. The value of that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion today with a few people who have talked about the difference between your client and then the users of the client's applications.
And the app that I built to track all and monitor all the program activities that I built was a web app, because I don't know, personally, I don't like to download an app in order to get a schedule, for example.
Sure.
Or even just to track and monitor progress, because it's not accessible if it's downloaded locally on your phone. So I was a huge web, proponent. I guess now they call it progressive web apps. I just called it, a web browser that works. And it's really silly, because now when I advise people who want to work at Mozilla, and I say, well, what should I do? I say, well, of course you should love open source and the web and have an opinion about browser standards. But back then I had no idea when I spoke with Mozilla. It was just the right time, right moment, and just personal passion, loving open source projects and loving the web and just talking to the right people.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's all about timing.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the things we love to ask people is, if you weren't doing what you do now and you couldn't be around a computer, what would you be doing for your career?
Oh.
Not banking.
Not banking. That's true. So I only had, I think, 25 minutes to do my talk today. And there's a whole other history of my, previous life before tech.
The band, right?
Well, even more crazier than that.
I don't know.
I raised goats.
Raised goats?
I raised alpine goats.
That's cool.
Let's go into that. Keep going. I'm intrigued.
When I was getting my MBA at Cornell University, I had a little farm, and it was a dairy farm. And I raised alpine goats, and I raised honeybees, actually.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and take care of my girls. They were all girls, of course. And then, milk them, take care of them, do everything that's necessary, go to school, come back, milk them again. And I sold in the farmer's market and to
goat
neighbors, goat cheese, goat milk, honey. And I sold honey to spas. And, that's another story for another day. But I just, loved raising animals. And the reason why goats was because Cornell has one of the best agricultural programs. And they had a Goats in the Woods program that was just piloted by this woman. And I just bumped into her at school one day, and we were chatting, and we really hit it off. And she just kept on going on about goats. And I said, you know what? I want to get a few goats. How do I do this?
Yeah, that's so cool.
Do you still have goats?
I do not.
Are you
It's
sad
very
about
sad.
Do you want one as like a pet?
No. Because, goats.
Nice.
They're cute.
They're
Those
very
are adorable.
cute.
I
Yeah.
don't know those. Hush, go.
I don't like cuddly.
They're super
Well,
cuddly.
when they're slow.
See, super
No,
cuddly.
they're super cuddly. They're like dogs.
Really?
Yeah, they are super duper cuddly, and they're very jealous. So be,
Oh,
do
really?
be careful.
So get
Yeah.
one.
I want to go. I
Well,
want one
but
really
then that's
bad.
another thing. They can't. They're a herd animal.
Oh,
So you
get
need-
5.
Oh, you have to have a bunch of them.
You need, or they will stick to you like glue.
Oh,
I mean,
see?
if you are a needy person and you're codependent,
He is.
I want something that loves me.
And they're really good at keeping the lawn nice.
Oh, so
Well-
that will keep my rugs.
You have to have the
I-
right grass.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt right there. So that is a horrible common fallacy,
don't?
right?
Oh.
They will eat grass, but only as a last resort.
Oh, what do
And
they eat?
Here's the reason why. Goats usually eat
Not
really
shrubs?
prickly shrubs that are high.
Yeah.
And the reason is because a lot of parasites live on the low ground
Ah.
vegetation,
So it's bad
okay.
for
and
them.
it's very bad for them. They get very sick.
If you
So
want to get
they're
a goat, don't do grass. Do them
Not
proper.
grass. Unless
And
it's
don't feed them
filtered.
tin cans, another horrible
A lot of people do
misconception.
that.
Well, you know,
Who would
the
do
whole
that?
Billy goats stuff.
What? That's horrible.
That is
Jeez.
You know,
horrible.
who are these people?
Yeah, animals eating
Huh.
tin cans.
Terrible.
Ugh, that's yeah.
How did that? I'm curious how they got in petting zoos everywhere. It's so like ridiculous. I feel bad for them.
I do
Yeah.
too.
That sounds like such a nice thing to walk
Yeah.
away from, though.
Yeah.
I must super miss that.
Let's just go leave.
Sorry to make you
Mozilla,
sad.
I
Start a
know.
goat thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, oh,
Maybe you could
guys.
have like a Mozilla goat farm.
I just wake up every day and be like, it's 4 a.m, but like, oh, my goats.
and they need it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I love the bee thing as well. It was your bee?
yeah, just
Yeah.
a few hives to raise bees.
Yeah, we have some friends of ours that
Mhm.
are beekeeper, like they rescue bees,
Mm.
and there's bees all over St. Pete, Florida, where I live,
Yeah.
and they have set up like hives all over the place. We get fresh honey from them, and some of it's amazing because it's near tropical plants, and the
Yeah.
flavor is just amazing. Bees are awesome. I love bees.
That's so
Like
great.
you love goats, I probably love bees more than goats.
You can't hug bees, though.
You got me.
It's like, challenge
But honey,
accepted.
but yeah. At night I could because they're not at night. They're just in their hive. You could like lift the hive up and walk around with it. It'd be fine.
Yeah, you still can't hug them. I mean, go
You can
for
hug
it.
the hive.
I suggest you hug the bees. I think you should try it and see how that goes. I'm gonna hug a goat.
Yeah, they recently, a scary thing is they took a massive hive, like 40 to 70,000 bees they estimated. And it's just crazy that they just take it, they put a thing over it and put it in their van and just move it at night. And I'm like, God, I mean,
Right.
I know it's probably safe because at night,
Yeah.
they are apparently, they don't come
They
out.
probably put a little mesh in the area
Yeah, they
too.
do.
You know?
Really?
Wow.
They put,
Yeah,
like a
that would
cloth thing over
frighten
it,
me.
and that's it.
Yeah, no, no, thank you. Now goats,
You want to
sure.
go with them?
Yeah. Well, this has been great talking with you. Do
Very
you have
great.
any last words, any words of wisdom for our audience? Anything that you want to
Oh,
get out there about your talk or anything? in general?
words of wisdom. I felt like everything.
I know you're probably done today, so
Yeah, but, you know, I heard some really good lines here. So nothing from me directly, but from
sure.
She's got to
hearing.
plagiarize.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to plagiarize and just copy because
Churchill
is-
said,
Yeah.
what everybody said to do what you love, right?
Yes.
And then
And it won't be work.
yes, exactly. And I mean, this is Saturday. We're here on a Saturday
yeah,
in a conference center talking about tech.
Wait, this
yeah,
is
we
a
could,
Saturday.
yeah, we could be with our
Right,
families
sure.
at home.
I'm getting out of here.
Yeah,
So I'm assuming we all love what we do here, which is awesome.
yeah, that's
Very
great.
true.
Yeah, all right. Great words of wisdom.
Yes.
We'll end it there. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
being on the
you.
show.
Hey, guys.
Thanks, guys.